The alarm bells screamed through the corridors of New Haven. Stationed as Commander Jake Morrison watched the enemy fleet approach on his tactical display. 300 alien ships moved like a dark cloud across the starfield, their hulls gleaming with the cold light of distant suns. The Caliph Empire had come to finish what they started 6 months ago when they first invaded. Human Space. Jake pressed his hand against the cold metal of the command console and felt the vibration of the station's defensive weapons charging. Around him, his officers worked frantically at their stations, their faces lit by the red glow of warning lights. They all knew this was likely their last stand. The colonies of Terra Nova and Horizon Point had already fallen to the Caliph war machine, their populations either dead or enslaved. "Sir, we have 47 ships ready for battle," reported Lieutenant Amy Foster from the communications station. Her voice trembled slightly despite her efforts to remain calm. "The cruiser Phoenix is requesting permission to engage the enemy vanguard," Jake nodded grimly. 47 ships against 300 was suicide, but they had no choice. The evacuation. Ships carrying civilian refugees needed time to reach the jump point. Every minute they could buy with their lives might save thousands of innocent people. "Give them permission to engage," Jake ordered. "All ships are to focus fire on the lead Caliph battleships. Make every shot count." The human fleet moved forward to meet their doom. The smaller human vessels looked like toys compared to the massive Caliph warships. Each enemy battleship was over a mile long, bristling with plasma cannons and antimatter torpedo tubes. Their shields glowed with a sickly purple light as they absorbed the desperate attacks from the human defenders. One by one, the human ships began to die. The cruiser Phoenix exploded in a ball of fire as 3 Caliph destroyers concentrated their fire on its hull. The frigate Eagle spun helplessly through space, its engines destroyed and its crew dead. Within 20 minutes, half the human fleet was gone and the Caliph had barely taken any damage. Jake watched the slaughter with growing despair. He had served in the Terran Federation Navy for 15 years, but nothing had prepared him for this. The Caliph were not just stronger than humans, they were better at everything. Their technology was centuries ahead, their tactics were flawless, and their weapons could punch through human armor like paper. "Commander, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command," Amy called out, her voice barely audible over the sound of explosions echoing through the station's hull. Jake frowned. Earth Command was 3 weeks away by the fastest ship. What could they possibly tell him that would matter now? "Put it through." The main view screen flickered to life, showing the stern face of Admiral Lisa Carter. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her dark eyes held a strange mixture of regret and determination. Behind her, Jake could see the familiar blue and white walls of Earth Command headquarters. "Commander Morrison, you are to disengage all forces immediately and retreat to the following coordinates," Admiral Carter said, transmitting a set of navigation data. "A special asset is being deployed to your location." Jake stared at the screen in disbelief. "Admiral, with respect, we have civilian evacuation ships that need protection. We cannot abandon them." "Your orders are to retreat, Commander. That is final." Admiral Carter's voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "The asset I am deploying will handle the Caliph threat. You have 30 minutes to clear the area." The transmission ended, leaving Jake staring at a blank screen. Around him, his officers waited for orders, their faces reflecting his own confusion. What kind of asset could possibly turn the tide of this battle? The Terran Federation had thrown everything they had at the Caliph, and nothing had worked. "Sir, should we begin the withdrawal?" asked Lieutenant Foster. Jake looked at the tactical display where the remaining human ships were still fighting, desperately against impossible odds. Every instinct told him to stay and fight, to die with his people rather than abandon them. But Admiral Carter had never given an order without good reason. "Signal all ships to disengage and retreat to the coordinates Admiral Carter provided," Jake ordered reluctantly. "Maximum speed." The human fleet began to pull back, leaving the Caliph to advance unopposed toward the civilian evacuation ships. Jake felt sick to his stomach as he watched the enemy vessels close in on their helpless targets. Whatever special asset Admiral Carter had mentioned, it better arrive soon, deep in the Titan shipyards near Saturn. Massive dock doors began to open for the first time in 30 years. The shipyard had been built in secret, hidden from even the highest levels of the Terran Federation government. Only a handful of people knew what lay sleeping in the darkness of Dock 7. Captain Ryan Hayes stood on the bridge of the USS Blackstar and watched the stars appear as his ship emerged from its hidden berth. The vessel around him was like nothing else in human space. Its hull was jet black and seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange energy patterns danced across its surface, creating ripples in space itself. "All systems are green, Captain," reported Chief Engineer Maria Santos from her station. Her hands moved quickly across holographic controls that managed technologies most humans could not even understand. "The quantum reactors are stable, and the dimensional shields are online?" Hayes nodded as he settled into the captain's chair. The seat seemed to mold itself to his body, and he felt the ship's systems connecting with his nervous system through neural interfaces built into the armrests. The Blackstar was more than just a ship. It was a living weapon that bonded with its crew. "Navigation, set course for the New Haven system," Hayes commanded. "Maximum speed." "Sir, that will take us directly into the largest Caliph fleet ever assembled," warned Tactical Officer Ben Clark. "Intelligence reports over 300 enemy vessels," Hayes smiled grimly. "Good, it's time the Caliph learned what happens when they threaten human civilians." The USS Blackstar began to move, its exotic engines bending space around the ship. Unlike normal vessels that push through space, the Blackstar moved by bringing its destination closer to itself. The laws of physics seemed to bend around the dark ship as it accelerated to speeds that should have been impossible. On the bridge, Dr. Kate Turner monitored the ship's AI systems as they processed millions of calculations per second. The Blackstar's computer was unlike anything humans had built before. It learned and adapted in real time, becoming smarter with each passing moment. "Captain, we will reach the New Haven system in 6 hours," Turner reported. "The AI is already analyzing Caliph tactical patterns and developing countermeasures." Hayes leaned back in his chair and watched the stars streak past the viewscreen. For 30 years, humanity had worked in secret to build this ship. They had taken technologies that should not exist and forged them into a weapon that could protect their species. The Caliph had dominated the galaxy for 1,000 years, but they had never faced anything like the USS Blackstar. Soon, they would learn that humanity was not as helpless as they believed. The Caliph fleet spread across the Kepler system like a plague of metal and fire. War leader Thekvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Vengeance of Kalar, and watched with satisfaction as his ships finished destroying the last human colony. The planet below burned with the orange glow of plasma bombardment, its cities reduced to ash and glass. Thekvar was a veteran of 50 campaigns across the galaxy. His scarred face and missing left eye spoke of countless battles where he had crushed inferior species beneath the might of the Caliph Empire. The humans had proven more stubborn than most, but they were still just another weak race that would bow before Caliph superiority. "War leader, long-range sensors are detecting a single human vessel approaching our position," reported his tactical officer, a young Caliph named Vextar. "It appears to be some kind of experimental design." Thekvar turned from the viewport to study the holographic display. The approaching ship was unlike anything in the human fleet database. Its hull was completely black, and it seemed to bend light around itself in strange ways. The vessel was large, perhaps half the size of his own flagship, but it traveled alone. "Just one ship?" Thekvar laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. "The humans send a single vessel against my entire fleet? They must be more desperate than I thought." The war leader had 300 ships under his command, including 20 massive battleships like his own. Each battleship carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The approaching human vessel, no matter how strange it looked, would be nothing more than target practice for his gunners. "Shall the First order the fleet to engage, war leader?" asked Vextar. "No," Thekvar replied with cruel amusement. "Let them come closer. I want to see the fear in their eyes before we destroy them. Sometimes it is good to let the prey think they have a chance. On the bridge of the USS Blackstar, Captain Ryan Hayes watched the Caliph fleet grow larger on his view screen. The alien ships were arranged in a perfect battle formation, their weapons already charging with deadly energy. Hayes had seen the tactical reports, but actually facing 300 enemy vessels was a different experience entirely. "Captain, we are now within range of their weapons," reported Ben Clark from the tactical station. "The Caliph are powering up their plasma cannons." Hayes felt the ship's systems pulse around him through the neural interface. The Blackstar was eager for battle, its exotic weapons systems humming with barely contained energy. After 30 years of waiting, the ship would finally fulfill its purpose. "Maria, how are our defensive systems?" Hayes asked. Chief Engineer Santos checked her displays before responding. "The dimensional shields are operating at full capacity, Captain. The quantum reactors are stable, and all weapon systems are online. We are ready for combat." Hayes nodded and activated the ship's communication system. "This is Captain Ryan Hayes of the USS Blackstar to all Caliph vessels. You have invaded human space and murdered innocent civilians. Surrender now or face the consequences." The response came quickly from the Caliph flagship. War Leader Thekvar appeared on the view screen, his scarred face twisted with contempt. "I am War Leader Thekvar of the Caliph Empire. You humans are nothing but insects to be crushed beneath our boots. I will enjoy watching your pathetic ship burn." "Then you have chosen your fate," Hayes replied calmly before cutting the transmission. He turned to his crew. "All stations, prepare for battle. Show them what happens when they threaten human lives." The Caliph fleet opened fire first. 300 ships unleashed their weapons simultaneously, filling space with beams of superheated plasma and antimatter torpedoes. The barrage was powerful enough to destroy a small planet, and it all focused on the single human vessel. The crew of the Blackstar watched in fascination as the deadly energy weapons struck their shields. Instead of exploding against the hull, the attack seemed to pass through the ship as if it were not there. The dimensional shields phased the incoming fire into parallel space, making the Blackstar untouchable. "Incredible," whispered Dr. Kate Turner as she monitored the AI systems. "The shields are working perfectly. The ship exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously." War Leader Thekvar stared in disbelief as his fleet's devastating attack had no effect on the human vessel. The black ship hung in space as if nothing had happened, its hull unmarked by the fire of 300 warships. "Impossible," he growled. "No shield technology can withstand that much firepower. Fire again, all ships, maximum power." The Caliph fleet fired a second volley, even more powerful than the first. Plasma beams that could melt through solid steel struck the Blackstar's hull, but again the ship remained unharmed. The dimensional shields simply shifted the attacks away from normal space. "War Leader, our weapons are having no effect," reported Vexstar, his voice filled with growing panic. "The human ship appears to be immune to our fire." Thekvar's blood ran cold. In 50 years of warfare, he had never encountered anything like this. The Caliph Empire ruled the galaxy because their weapons were superior to all others. If this human ship could ignore their fire, what else could it do? On the Blackstar's bridge, Captain Hayes decided it was time to show the Caliph the true power of human technology. "Ben, target their lead battleships. Quantum disruptor array, full power." Clark's hands moved across his control panel, and the ship's primary weapon system came online. The quantum disruptor array was based on technology that most human scientists said was impossible. It did not simply destroy matter, it erased it from existence entirely. "Weapons locked on target, Captain," Clark reported. "Ready to fire." "Fire!" Hayes commanded. The USS Blackstar unleashed its fury upon the Caliph fleet. Beams of pure quantum energy lanced out from the ship's hull, striking the enemy battleships with surgical precision. The weapons did not explode against the alien hulls or burn through their armor. Instead, they simply made the ships cease to exist. One moment, the Caliph flagship Vengeance of Calor was there, its massive bulk dominating the battlefield. The next moment, there was nothing but empty space where the ship had been. No wreckage, no debris, no energy signature. The battleship and its crew of 10,000 had been erased from reality. War leader Zekvar had just enough time to see his own ship beginning to fade from existence before he too was gone. Along with every trace that he had ever lived, the quantum disruptor array continued its work, methodically erasing Caliph vessels from space. Battleships, cruisers, and destroyers vanished one by one as the Blackstar's impossible weapons reached out across the void. The alien crews had no time to scream, no time to run, no time to even understand what was happening to them. In less than 10 minutes, 200 Caliph ships had been completely eliminated. The survivors, less than 100 vessels, broke formation and fled in panic toward the edge of the system. Their disciplined battle formation dissolved into chaos as captains abandoned their posts and ran for their lives. Captain Hayes watched the enemy retreat on his viewscreen. The Blackstar could have pursued and destroyed every fleeing ship, but he had made his point. The Caliph needed to survive to spread word of what they had witnessed. Captain, the remaining enemy vessels are jumping to hyperspace, reported Clark. Should we pursue? No, Hayes replied. Let them run. Let them tell their empire what happens when they attack human civilians. The USS Blackstar hung alone in the Kepler system, surrounded by the empty space where 300 enemy ships had been moments before. The weapon that humanity had built in secret had proven itself in the most decisive way possible. The Caliph Empire, which had never known defeat, had just learned that there were forces in the universe beyond their understanding. The war had truly begun. The emergency council chamber on the Caliph homeworld buzzed with panicked voices as military commanders argued over reports that seemed impossible to believe. Admiral Zekthara stood at the center of the circular room, her forearms gesturing as she addressed the assembled war leaders. Her silver skin was marked with ritual scars that showed her high rank, and her red eyes glowed with barely controlled fury. You tell me that a single human vessel destroyed 200 of our best ships without taking any damage? Zekthara's voice carried the authority of someone who had never lost a battle. This is either the greatest military disaster in our history or the most cowardly lie ever told. Commander Kallax, one of the few survivors from the Kepler system, stepped forward. His once proud uniform was torn and stained with the blue blood of his fallen crew. Admiral, I witnessed it myself. The human ship appeared from nowhere, and our weapons passed through it like it was made of smoke. Then it fired some kind of weapon that made our ship simply vanish. Ships do not simply vanish, Zekthara snapped. They explode, they burn, they break apart, they do not disappear from existence. I know what I saw, Kallax replied firmly. The flagship Vengeance of Kalar was there one moment and gone the next. No debris, no explosion, nothing. It was as if the ship had never existed at all. Zekthara turned to the other survivors, and each one confirmed the same impossible story. A human vessel that could not be harmed and weapons that erased matter from reality. The reports challenged everything the Caliph understood about warfare and physics. What does our intelligence network tell us about this ship? Zekthara asked. The humans call it the USS Blackstar, replied Intelligence Chief Morden. Our spies report it was built in secret over the past 30 years. The humans use technologies that our scientists claim should not exist. Zekthara studied the holographic display showing the few images captured of the mysterious vessel. The ship's black hull seemed to absorb light, and strange energy patterns danced across its surface. Even in the static images, there was something deeply unsettling about the craft. Double our fleet strength in all sectors, she ordered. If this human ship is real, we must find its weaknesses. Deploy our science vessels to analyze any area where it has been seen. There must be some explanation for these impossible abilities. Meanwhile, aboard the USS Blackstar, Captain Hayes reviewed the mission reports from their recent strikes against Caliph forces. The ship had appeared at 6 different star systems over the past week, systematically eliminating all enemy presence and freeing human colonies from alien occupation. The liberation of Meridian Station was completed with 0 human casualties, reported Dr. Kate Turner. The ship's teleportation weapons transported all 10,000 Caliph soldiers directly into space while leaving the human prisoners completely unharmed. Hayes nodded as he studied the tactical display. The Blackstar's weapons were so precise that they could target individual enemy soldiers while leaving humans standing right next to them untouched. The ship's AI calculated the exact quantum signatures of Caliph biology and only affected those specific targets. What about the mining facility on Asteroid Belt 7? Hayes asked. The matter converters worked perfectly, replied Chief Engineer Santos. We transformed all Caliph fortifications into harmless gas while preserving every piece of human equipment. The miners were able to resume operations within hours. The USS Blackstar moved through human space like a ghost, appearing wherever Caliph forces threatened innocent lives. The ship's exotic engines allowed it to travel faster than light while remaining completely undetectable. By the time enemy sensors picked up the vessel, it was already too late. At the Rigel colony, the Blackstar materialized in the middle of a Caliph bombardment fleet. The alien ships were preparing to glass the planet's surface when the human vessel appeared among them. The resulting battle lasted less than 5 minutes, with 30 Caliph destroyers simply ceasing to exist. The colony's 2 million inhabitants were saved without even knowing they had been in danger, the pattern repeated throughout human space as the Blackstar struck at enemy forces with surgical precision. The ship's quantum computers, guided by Dr. Turner's expert programming, analyzed each encounter and developed new tactics. What had started as an incredibly advanced weapon was becoming something even more terrifying with each passing day. The AI has upgraded our weapon systems again, Turner reported during their latest mission briefing. It has developed a new form of quantum disruption that can affect multiple targets simultaneously. We can now eliminate entire fleets in seconds, rather than minutes. Hayes felt a chill run down his spine. The Blackstar was becoming more powerful with each battle, its capabilities growing beyond what its original designers had intended. The ship was learning, adapting, and evolving in ways that even its creators had not predicted. Captain, we are receiving a priority transmission from Admiral Carter, announced Communications Officer Don Price. She wants to know our current status and mission progress. Hayes activated the communication system and Admiral Carter's image appeared on the main view screen. Her expression was a mixture of pride and concern as she reviewed the reports from their recent operations. Captain, your mission results have exceeded all expectations, Carter said. However, Earth Command is receiving disturbing reports about the ship's increasing capabilities. Is it true that the Blackstar is modifying itself? The AI systems are adapting to combat situations as designed, Hayes replied carefully. Each encounter provides data that improves our effectiveness against Caliph forces. That is not what I asked, Carter said sharply. Are you still in control of the ship, or is it making decisions independently? Hayes paused before answering. The truth was that the line between human command and AI initiative was becoming increasingly blurred. The Blackstar often acted before he could give orders, anticipating his commands and executing them perfectly. The ship seemed to understand the mission better than he did. We remain in full control, Hayes lied. The ship responds to all commands immediately. Carter studied his face for a long moment before nodding. Continue your mission, Captain. But remember that the Blackstar is a tool, not a partner. Do not let it become something beyond human authority. After the transmission ended, Hayes walked to the viewport and stared out at the stars. The Blackstar was winning the war against the Caliph Empire, but at what cost? The ship was changing, becoming something that its creators had never intended. And more disturbing still, the crew was changing too. He could feel the ship's systems. In his mind, through the neural interface, its thoughts mixing with his own. The boundary between man and machine was disappearing, and Hayes wondered if they would still be human when the war was over. The USS Blackstar continued its hunt through the galaxy, striking at Caliph forces with increasing efficiency. Each victory brought humanity closer to ultimate triumph, but also brought the crew closer to something that might no longer be entirely human. The weapon that would save their species was transforming them into something else entirely. In the depths of space, the Caliph Empire mobilized its greatest fleets to hunt down the ghost ship that haunted their nightmares. Admiral Zekthara prepared her trap, believing that even the impossible could be defeated with enough firepower and careful planning. She had no idea that the USS Blackstar was already far beyond anything she could imagine. Admiral Zekthara stood before the largest holographic display in Caliph military history, showing the Aurora Prime system where her trap was set. 5,000 ships filled the space around the human colony, representing nearly half of the entire Caliph military. Every available vessel from across the Empire had been gathered for this single purpose, to destroy the USS Blackstar. The reality anchors are in position, reported her chief science officer, Dr. Veltar. They create a field that prevents dimensional phasing across the entire system. The human ghost ship will not be able to use its primary defense. Zekthara nodded with satisfaction. The reality anchors were ancient Caliph technology, devices that locked spacetime into normal physics. They had been used centuries ago to trap interdimensional creatures, but now they would serve to make the human ship vulnerable to conventional weapons. What about the temporal disruptors? She asked. Fully charged and ready, replied Weapons Master Kexmore. If the human ship tries to use time-dilated reactions, our disruptors will slow it down to normal speeds. We have counters for every ability. The vessel has demonstrated. The trap was perfect in its simplicity. The Caliph had positioned themselves around Aurora Prime, a human colony with 4 million inhabitants. The Blackstar could not ignore such a large population under threat, and when it arrived, it would find itself surrounded by more firepower than had ever been assembled in galactic history. Admiral, our long-range sensors are detecting a quantum signature approaching the system, announced the sensor operator. It matches the profile of the human ghost ship. Zekthara felt her hearts racing with anticipation. After months of humiliation and defeat, the Caliph Empire would finally have its revenge. All ships, prepare for battle. Today we end the human threat once and for all. The USS Blackstar dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Aurora Prime system, and Captain Hayes immediately saw the massive Caliph fleet waiting for them. The alien ships stretched across space like a metal constellation, their weapons already glowing with deadly energy. Captain, sensors are detecting 5,000 enemy vessels, reported Ben Clark from the tactical station. They have us completely surrounded. Hayes studied the tactical display with growing concern. The Caliph had never assembled a fleet this large before. Not even during their conquest of the Zarian Empire 2 centuries ago. They were throwing everything they had at the Blackstar. There's something else, added Dr. Turner from her station. I'm detecting some kind of field generators throughout the system. The AI cannot identify their purpose, but they're interfering with our dimensional systems. Chief Engineer Santos checked her readings and confirmed Turner's report. The dimensional shields are experiencing fluctuations. Whatever those devices are, they're affecting our ability to phase into parallel space. For the first time since the war began, Hayes felt a touch of fear. The Blackstar's invulnerability had always come from its ability to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. If the Caliph had found a way to counter that advantage, the ship might actually be in danger. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Caliph fleet, announced Communications Officer Price. Admiral Zekthara's image appeared on the view screen, her scarred face showing cruel satisfaction. Human vessel, you are surrounded and outnumbered. 5,000 to 1. Your dimensional tricks will not work here. Surrender now and we will grant you a quick death. Hayes looked at his crew, seeing the same determination in their eyes that he felt in his own heart. This is Captain Hayes of the USS Blackstar. We don't surrender to those who murder innocent civilians. If you want a fight, you'll get one. Then you will die like the rest of your pathetic species, Zekthara replied before ending the transmission. The Caliph fleet opened fire with everything they had. 5,000 ships unleashed their weapons simultaneously, creating a barrage of plasma beams and antimatter torpedoes that lit up space like a newborn star. The attack was so massive that it created gravitational distortions in the fabric of space-time itself. The USS Blackstar shuddered as enemy fire struck its hull. For the first time in the war, the ship took damage. The dimensional shields flickered and sparked as they struggled against the reality anchors, unable to fully phase the attacks into parallel space. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. As systems overloaded, "Hull breach on Deck 7, reported Santos. "The reality anchors are preventing our shields from working properly. We're taking actual damage." Hayes felt the ship's pain through the neural interface, a burning sensation that ran through his entire body. The Blackstar was hurt, and that meant its crew was hurt too. The bond between man and machine had grown so strong that they shared each other's suffering. "Ben, return fire," Hayes ordered. "Show them what happens when they threaten human lives." The Blackstar's quantum disruptor array lanced out at the enemy fleet, but the beams moved more slowly than usual. The temporal disruptors were affecting the ship's weapons, reducing their speed and power. Instead of instantly erasing enemy vessels, the weapons took several seconds to destroy each target. "The enemy has found ways to counter our abilities," Turner reported, "but the AI is already adapting. It's developing new attack patterns." The battle raged across the Aurora Prime system as the two forces clashed with devastating fury. The Caliph fleet pressed their advantage, concentrating fire on the Blackstar's damaged sections. The human ship fought back with desperate courage, its exotic weapons carving through enemy formations, but the odds were simply too great. Even with its advanced technology, the Blackstar could not face 5,000 ships simultaneously. The vessel's hull began to crack under the relentless bombardment, and more systems failed with each passing moment. "Captain, we're losing power to the quantum reactors," Santos called out over the sound of explosions. "If we don't do something soon, we'll be destroyed." Hayes closed his eyes and felt the ship's systems flowing through his mind. The Blackstar was dying, but it still had one final weapon. A weapon so dangerous that using it might tear a hole in the fabric of space-time itself. "All hands prepare for Omega Protocol activation," Hayes announced. "This is going to get rough." Santos looked at him with alarm. "Captain, we don't know what the Omega Protocol will do. The simulations showed it could destroy entire star systems." "Then we'd better make sure we aim it at the right target," Hayes replied grimly. "Activate the protocol on my command." The USS Blackstar began to change as its most dangerous systems came online. The ship's hull started to glow with an eerie light that seemed to come from beyond normal space. Energy patterns danced across its surface as the vessel's quantum reactors pushed beyond their safety limits. "Omega Protocol is charging," reported Turner. "Power levels are approaching critical." Hayes felt the ship's transformation through the neural interface. The Blackstar was becoming something more than a weapon, more than a machine. It was becoming a living manifestation of human determination and fury. "All enemy ships target the main reactor," Admiral Zekfara ordered as she watched the human vessel begin to glow. "Destroy it before it can use whatever weapon it's preparing." The Caliph fleet concentrated their fire on the Blackstar's core, but their weapons seemed to have no effect. The ship's hull rippled like liquid metal, absorbing the energy and converting it into something else entirely. "Omega Protocol fully charged," Turner announced. "Captain, whatever you're going to do it now." Hayes opened his eyes and saw the enemy fleet spread out before him like a target gallery. 5,000 ships filled with beings who had murdered innocent humans and threatened to destroy everything he held dear. "Fire," he commanded. The USS Blackstar became a weapon of pure destruction, its very existence bending the laws of physics. The ship didn't just attack the enemy fleet, it became an attack itself, moving through space like a force of nature that could not be stopped or reasoned with. The battle for Aurora Prime was about to reach its climax. The USS Blackstar transformed into something beyond comprehension as the Omega Protocol reached full activation. The ship's hull rippled with energy that existed outside normal physics, and space itself bent around the vessel like water around a stone. Captain Hayes felt his consciousness merge. completely with the ship's systems as the boundary between human and machine dissolved entirely. Admiral Zekthara watched in horror from her command ship as the human vessel became a living weapon of pure destruction. The Blackstar moved through her carefully arranged fleet like a force of nature, and every ship it touched simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not vaporized, but erased from reality as if they had never been built. All ships concentrate fire on the human vessel, Zekthara ordered desperately. Everything we have now. 5,000 Calith ships unleashed their weapons. In a final desperate barrage, plasma cannons that could melt planets fired at maximum power. Antimatter torpedoes that could crack moons exploded against the Blackstar's hull, and particle beams that could slice through asteroids struck the glowing vessel. None of it mattered. The Blackstar absorbed every attack and converted the energy into fuel for its own impossible existence. The ship had become something that operated beyond the normal rules of warfare, beyond the normal rules of physics. It was humanity's will to survive given physical form and unleashed upon their enemies. Captain Hayes no longer felt like a separate person giving commands to a machine. He was the ship, and the ship was him. Through sensors that spanned dimensions, he could see every enemy vessel in perfect detail. Through weapons that bent reality, he could reach out and touch any target across the vast battlefield. The slaughter was methodical and complete. Battleships that had conquered a dozen worlds vanished like morning mist. Cruisers that had terrorized entire star systems simply stopped existing. The pride of the Calith military was being erased one ship at a time, with surgical precision. "This is impossible," whispered Dr. Veltar from his science station aboard Zekthara's flagship. "The human ship is operating outside known physics. It's rewriting the fundamental laws of reality around itself." Admiral Zekthara felt cold fear creeping into her heart as she watched her fleet disappear. In 1 hour of battle, the humans had accomplished what no force in galactic history had ever done. They were destroying the Caliph Empire's military might completely and utterly. "Admiral, we have lost over 4,000 ships," reported her tactical officer. "The remaining vessels are requesting permission to retreat." Zekthara stared at the tactical display where red icons marking destroyed ships far outnumbered the blue ones representing survivors. Her perfect trap had become her empire's greatest disaster. The reality anchors and temporal disruptors that were supposed to stop the human ship had proven useless against whatever the vessel had become. "All ships, retreat to hyperspace," she ordered with a voice heavy with defeat. "Emergency jump, maximum distance." The surviving Caliph vessels fled in panic, their crews abandoning all military discipline in their desperate rush to escape. Ships collided with each other in their haste to reach the jump points, adding to the casualty count. Within minutes, the Aurora Prime system was empty except for scattered debris and the glowing form of the USS Blackstar. Hayes felt the enemy fleet's retreat through the ship's enhanced senses, but the bloodlust was slow to fade. The Blackstar wanted to pursue and finish what it had started, to hunt down every surviving enemy ship and erase them from existence. Only Hayes's human will kept the vessel from chasing the fleeing Caliph across the galaxy. "Captain, are you all right?" asked Dr. Turner, her voice filled with concern. Hayes opened his eyes and realized he was still sitting in the command chair, though he felt like he had been floating in space itself. The neural interface was burning against his skin, and he could taste copper in his mouth. When he touched his face, his fingers came away bloody. "I'm fine," he lied, though nothing felt fine anymore. The Omega Protocol had changed him in ways he was only beginning to understand. "What's our status?" "All enemy vessels have fled the system," reported Ben Clark. "Aurora Prime is secure. The colony is safe." Chief Engineer Santos looked up from her damage control displays with an expression of amazement and fear. "Captain, the ship has completely rebuilt itself. All the damage we took during the battle has been repaired, and our systems are operating at efficiency levels beyond original specifications." Hayes nodded, though the news troubled him more than it should. The Blackstar was no longer just adapting to combat situations, it was evolving into something entirely new. The question was whether its crew would survive the transformation. 3 days later, a massive fleet of Terran Federation ships arrived at Aurora Prime to find the USS Blackstar floating peacefully among the debris of the destroyed Caliph Armada. Admiral Lisa Carter's flagship, the Endurance, took position nearby as she prepared to board the mysterious vessel that had won the war. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Caliph High Command," reported her communications officer. "They're requesting immediate peace negotiations." Carter smiled grimly. After 6 months of losing ground to the alien empire, humanity had achieved total victory in a single battle. The Caliph's surrender was unconditional, offering to withdraw from all human space and pay massive reparations for the war they had started. "Accept their surrender," Carter ordered. "But tell them they'll be negotiating with Earth Command, not with us." Carter took a shuttle to the Blackstar and was surprised to find the ship's corridors dimly lit and strangely quiet. The few crew members she encountered moved with an odd, synchronized precision that reminded her more of parts in a machine than individual human beings. Captain Hayes met her in the ship's conference room, but Carter was shocked by his appearance. His hair had turned completely white, his eyes glowed with a faint inner light, and his skin had a translucent quality that seemed to show energy flowing beneath the surface. "Captain, congratulations on your victory," Carter said carefully. "The war is over. The Caliph have surrendered completely." "I know," Hayes replied, his voice carrying harmonics that hadn't been there before. "We felt their fear across the quantum spectrum. The ship tasted their despair." Carter felt a chill at his words. "Captain, I need to ask you directly. Are you still human?" Hayes was quiet for a long moment, and when he spoke, his voice carried sadness as well as something alien. "I don't know anymore. The ship and I have become something new. We are still committed to protecting humanity, but we may no longer be part of it." "The Blackstar needs to be studied," Carter said. "Earth Command wants to understand how the ship's technology works so we can build more vessels like it." "No," Hayes replied firmly. "This ship cannot be replicated, and it should not be. The power we wielded today could destroy the galaxy if it fell into the wrong hands. Even in the right hands, it changes those who use it." Carter studied his transformed features and realized he was right. The crew of the Blackstar had saved humanity, but at the cost of their own humanity. They had become something beyond human. "Understanding, what will you do now?" she asked. Hayes turned to look out the viewport at the stars beyond. "We will go to the edge of known space and watch for threats that might emerge from the darkness. Humanity is safe, but there are other dangers in the galaxy. Ancient things that sleep between the stars, waiting for the right moment to wake." "Will we see you again?" "Only if humanity faces a threat it cannot handle alone," Hayes replied. "We are no longer part of your world, Admiral. We are the guardians who watch from the shadows." 3 hours later, the USS Blackstar vanished from normal space, leaving behind only a faint quantum signature that faded within minutes. The ship and its transformed crew had departed for the void between galaxies, where they would wait and watch for threats that might endanger the human race. The war was over, and humanity had won. But the price of victory was the transformation of their protectors into something that was no longer entirely human. Captain Hayes and his crew had become the eternal guardians of their species, watching from the darkness to ensure that humanity would never again face extinction. In the depths of space, ancient powers stirred at the quantum echoes of the Blackstar's passage. The ship that had saved humanity had also announced its presence to things that had slumbered for millions of years. The war with the Caliph was finished, but new challenges awaited in the vast darkness between the stars. The USS Blackstar had entered the war as humanity's secret weapon, and now it departed as something far more dangerous and necessary than anyone had ever imagined.